What would you do if you walked in on this? Hit like if you've been betrayed, and comment below where you're watching from. The room went silent, except for the muffled gasp that slipped from Adeola's lips. She had come home early from a business meeting in Victoria Island, her heels clicking softly on the marble floors of their Lekki mansion. Everything had seemed ordinary, the faint hum of the air conditioner, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee lingering from the morning, and the echo of laughter upstairs. But the laughter was not her daughter's. Pushing open the door to the master bedroom, Adeola froze. There was her husband, Chief Tunde Adegbite, the billionaire oil magnate whose name commanded respect across Lagos, sprawled on their bed with a woman half his age. The sheets told the story before her mind fully caught up, twisted, tangled, and betraying. The woman's lipstick smeared against his chest, her Ankara wrapper halfway to the floor. Jesus! Adeola cried, dropping her handbag with a loud thud. Tunde scrambled upright, his face a mixture of arrogance and irritation rather than guilt. Adeola, what are you doing here? What am I doing here? This is my house. Adeola's voice broke, rising in pitch. Her eyes darted between her husband and the stranger, who quickly snatched her wrapper and scurried into the bathroom like a rat escaping light. The man she had built her world around for 15 years, the father of her only child, stared back at her with a coldness that sliced deeper than the betrayal itself. You shouldn't have barged in, Tunde muttered, standing and pulling his trousers on without shame. If you respected my privacy. Your privacy? Adeola's chest heaved. In our matrimonial bed. Her words echoed off the cream-colored walls, mixing with the distant honks of Danfo buses outside the estate. She clutched her chest, feeling her heart pound as if it might burst. But what hurt the most was not just what she saw, it was how unsurprised she felt. This wasn't the first whisper of infidelity in marriage she had endured. Rumors had followed Tunde for years, secret apartments in Ikoyi, late-night parties with models, and generous gifts to women whose names she never knew. But she had always dismissed them. For the sake of their daughter, for the sake of appearances, for the sake of the empire they had built together. After everything, Tunde? Her voice cracked. After all the nights I prayed for you, all the battles I fought beside you, this is how you repay me. Tunde zipped his trousers and smirked, that smug smile that always came before his cruelest words. Adeola, don't be dramatic. Men cheat. It doesn't mean I don't love you. It's part of marriage. You should be grateful I still keep you in this house. The words cut like glass. Grateful? For betrayal? Her knees weakened, but she held herself up against the wardrobe, glaring at him with tears threatening to spill. You will regret this, she whispered, her voice low, shaking with rage. Tunde chuckled, slipping his gold wristwatch back onto his arm. Regret? My dear, you're replaceable. Women line up for me every day. If you want to stay, stay. If you want to leave, leave. But remember, everything you enjoy, the cars, the mansion, the staff, it's all mine. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Adeola swallowed hard, the weight of his words pressing her into silence. He was daring her. Dismissing her. Treating her as if she were nothing more than a decorative piece in his empire. At that moment, the bathroom door creaked open. The young woman emerged, avoiding Adeola's gaze as she tiptoed out of the room, clutching her wrapper. The sound of her hurried footsteps down the staircase seared into Adeola's memory like a scar. Tunde picked up his phone and casually scrolled, ignoring the devastation he had caused. Adeola turned, her hands trembling as she picked up her handbag. Every instinct screamed at her to scream louder, to smash something, to expose him right there. But instead, she walked out, her silence more dangerous than any words. Downstairs, she found her daughter, Moreo, sitting in the garden with a young, disheveled girl Adeola had never seen before. The girl's clothes were worn, her slippers nearly broken, her hair tied back neatly but showing signs of neglect. She was speaking softly, guiding Moreo's small fingers over a math workbook. 2 + 3 is 5, the girl said gently, her Yoruba accent thick but warm. Moreo's laughter rang out like a balm to Adeola's wounded heart. For a brief moment, Adeola forgot her pain. She watched as her daughter smiled brighter than she had in weeks. But then her eyes caught the billionaire's figure descending the staircase, his face darkening when he spotted the homeless-looking girl in their garden. "What nonsense is this?" Tunde barked, his voice booming across the compound. "Who let this riffraff into my house?" The girl froze, clutching the workbook like a shield. Moreo's face fell, her little eyes darting between her father and her new friend. Adeola's lips parted to speak, but her husband's glare silenced her. "You think you can just walk into a billionaire's mansion and sit with my daughter like you belong here?" Tunde roared, stepping closer to the frightened girl. Moreo jumped to her feet, her small hands tugging at his sleeve. "Daddy, please, don't shout at her. She was just helping me with my homework." The girl's eyes shimmered with unshed tears as Tunde towered over her. Adeola, her fury boiling beneath her grief, knew that what she saw next would change everything. Tunde's hand shot forward. And then, everything stopped. Tunde's hand froze in midair. For a terrifying second, Adeola thought he would strike the poor girl, right there in front of his daughter. But instead, he clenched his fist tightly and hissed through his teeth. "Get out." His voice was cold, low, the kind that carried more danger than shouting. The girl's eyes widened. She clutched the workbook closer, her lips trembling. Moreo clung to her father's arm, shaking her head fiercely. "No, Daddy. Please. She's my friend. She's teaching me better than Teacher Ngozi at school." Adeola stepped forward, her heart still pounding from the betrayal upstairs. Her voice was steady, though her insides quaked. "Tunde, she's just a child helping another child. Let her be." But Tunde snapped around, his eyes blazing. "You dare challenge me in my own house?" Adeola flinched. She had seen that look before, the same one he gave board members when he was about to crush their careers, the same look that sent domestic staff packing with no explanation. But now, it was directed at her. Moreo began to cry, hugging the girl tightly. "If she goes, I'll never do my homework again." That broke Adeola's heart. Her daughter rarely smiled these days, rarely laughed. But with this homeless-looking girl, she looked alive. The girl took a step back, her torn slippers scraping against the tiles. "I'll leave, Ma," she whispered, addressing Adeola, her voice polite despite the insult hurled at her. "Thank you." "No," Moreo wailed, stomping her little feet. "She stays." The household staff peeked from the kitchen doorway, whispering behind their hands. Everyone in the mansion had learned not to cross Tunde, but now, his authority was being challenged by a ragged girl and his own daughter. Tunde's nostrils flared. "If she doesn't walk out now, I'll have the security drag her out and dump her on the street where she belongs." Adeola's chest tightened. That single word, street, confirmed what she already suspected. This girl wasn't just poor. She was homeless. The girl lowered her gaze, clutching the workbook like it was her last possession on earth. Adeola noticed her uniform skirt, old and faded, clearly discarded from another school. Her blouse had a tear at the shoulder, but it was neatly washed. This was someone who had dignity, even in suffering. "Please, sir," the girl whispered, finally daring to meet Tunde's eyes. "I didn't mean to intrude. I only wanted to help. I can leave." Moreo's cries grew louder. "If you send her away, I'll hate you, Daddy. I'll hate you forever." The room froze. Tunde's jaw twitched. For all his arrogance, Moreo was his soft spot, the one thing that could bend his iron will. He turned his head slightly, glaring at Adeola as if this was her fault. "You brought this disgrace into my home, didn't you?" he spat. Adeola's mouth opened in shock. "Me? Tunde, I just came down the stairs. I don't even know her." But in that moment, Adeola realized something. This girl's presence had shaken Tunde in a way she didn't understand. Why would a billionaire, who surrounded himself with power and wealth, feel so threatened by a homeless child? The girl slowly turned to leave, her eyes glistening. Adeola's instincts screamed at her not to let the girl disappear. She was more than she appeared. Something about her presence felt important. Adeola stepped forward. "Wait." Tunde's head snapped back. "Adeola, don't you dare." But Adeola ignored him. She placed a gentle hand on the girl's shoulder. "What's your name, my dear?" The girl hesitated, then whispered, "Simi." Moreo sniffled, wiping her tears. Her name is Simi. She's my friend. Adola gave the girl a small smile, ignoring her husband's fury. Simi, would you like some food before you go? Tunde's face turned crimson. Adola, he barked, his voice echoing like thunder. Adola spun on him, her own anger boiling. She was tired of his cheating, tired of his cruelty, tired of watching him crush everyone beneath his feet. You've brought shame into this house already, Tunde, she said sharply. Don't add more by throwing a hungry child onto the street. The staff gasped audibly. No one ever spoke to Tunde like that. For the first time, he looked caught off guard. His lips parted, but no words came. Adola guided Simi toward the dining table, signaling the cook. Bring her food. Now. The cook, wide-eyed, obeyed immediately. Plates clattered as steaming jollof rice, fried plantain, and chicken were set before the girl. Simi's eyes widened as tears filled them. She whispered a soft, "Thank you," before lowering her head to eat. Tunde stormed upstairs without another word, his heavy footsteps shaking the staircase. Adola knew this wasn't over. By nightfall, he would unleash his wrath, and she would pay for humiliating him in front of staff and child alike. But as she watched Simi eat quietly, Moreo holding her hand, Adola felt a strange peace. This girl had walked into their home at the exact moment her world was crumbling, and something told her it was not by accident. When she tucked Moreo into bed later that night, Adola found herself staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. Betrayed by her husband, humiliated in her own home, and yet, she felt the stirring of something new. A plan. A silent seed of revenge. The mansion was quiet, the city lights flickering in the distance. Adola heard Tunde's deep snore from the master bedroom, his conscience unbothered by the chaos he caused. But Adola did not sleep. Because in her heart, she knew this was just the beginning. And the next morning, when she woke up, Simi was gone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What do you think happened to Simi overnight? Comment below. The dining table felt emptier than usual the next morning. Adola sat quietly, sipping her tea, her eyes on Moreo who poked at her eggs without enthusiasm. The child's usual chatter had vanished. "Mommy," Moreo whispered, "where's Simi? She promised she'd teach me more sums today." Adola forced a smile. "I'm sure she's fine, my love. Maybe she had to go home." But even as she spoke, she knew it wasn't true. Simi hadn't returned to any home. The girl was a wanderer, surviving in the shadows of Lagos, and Adeola's heart ached for her. Tunde, seated at the head of the table with his newspaper, let out a low grunt. Good riddance. That girl had no business here. Adeola's hand tightened around her teacup. She had stayed silent all through the night, letting him believe she was broken. But she was far from broken. She was watching. Waiting. "Moreo needs friends," Adola said softly, testing him. "Friends?" Tunde scoffed without looking up. "My daughter will have friends from powerful families, not from the gutter. Do you want her to grow up like a market woman?" The disrespect stung. Adola wanted to remind him that his own mother once sold a kara in Ibadan before he built his empire. But she bit her tongue. It wasn't time yet. Later that afternoon, while Tunde attended a board meeting on the island, Adola slipped out of the mansion. She told the driver to head toward the bustling streets near CMS, where she had seen homeless children gather before. Her instincts told her Simi would be there. The city was alive with noise, Okada engines revving, hawkers shouting, Afrobeat music blasting from shop speakers. Adola scanned the sidewalks, her heart heavy. Finally, she saw her. Simi was crouched near a food vendor, helping another girl, barely 10 years old, count change. Her uniform was the same one from yesterday, now covered in dust. Despite her appearance, there was a dignity in the way she carried herself, a maturity beyond her years. "Simi," Adola called gently. The girl's head snapped up. Her eyes widened in recognition before narrowing in fear. She stepped back quickly. "Madam, I'm sorry. I didn't mean trouble yesterday. Please, don't tell your husband I'm here." Adeola's throat tightened. "I'm not here to scold you. I want to help." Simi shook her head fiercely. Help brings problems. I'm fine on my own. But Moreo's tearful face flashed in Adiola's mind. She crouched down to meet the girl's eyes. My daughter misses you. She smiled yesterday, for the first time in weeks. That was because of you. Simi's lips trembled. She's a good girl. She deserves better than me. Adola touched her shoulder softly. Don't say that. You're smart. You're kind. You have something special. Come back with me. Please. The girl hesitated, torn between trust and survival. Before she could answer, a sharp male voice interrupted. Simi. Who is this? Adola turned. A tall, gaunt man with bloodshot eyes and ragged clothes stormed toward them. He reeked of alcohol, his steps unsteady. Simi froze, her entire body shrinking. Baba, please. Don't please me, he barked, grabbing her arm roughly. I told you not to talk to rich people. Do you want to disgrace me? Adiola's chest burned with anger. Leave her. She's just a child. The man's eyes swept over Adiola's elegant attire, her gold jewelry, the sleek car parked by the curb. His expression twisted into greed. Ah. A madam. So this is who you've been chasing? Do you want to take her away, N? Then pay. Everything in this life is money. Simi shook her head violently. No, Baba, no. Don't do this. Adiola's heart sank. The girl was at the mercy of a man who saw her only as currency. Her protective instincts surged. How much? Adola demanded, her voice shaking with controlled fury. The man smirked. 50,000. If you don't have it, she stays here. Adiola's hands trembled as she opened her purse. She had much more than that, but giving him money meant feeding his vices. Still, leaving Simi behind wasn't an option. She pulled out the cash and pressed it into his filthy hands. Now let her go. He counted greedily before shoving Simi toward Adola. Take her. She's stubborn anyway. A curse on my head. Simi's eyes brimmed with tears as she clutched Adiola's hand. For the first time, the girl didn't resist. Adola led her to the car, her chest heaving. From today, you're safe. You hear me? You're not going back there. Simi nodded silently, her grip tight. But as the car pulled away, Adola felt a storm brewing. Tunde would explode when he discovered she had brought Simi back. And she was right. That evening, when Adola returned to the mansion with Simi by her side, Tunde was already waiting in the living room, his face like thunder. What is this madness? He roared, standing to his full height. Adola straightened her back. This is Simi. She's staying with us. The staff gasped again, the air thick with tension. Tunde's face twisted in rage. Over my dead body. Adola met his glare without flinching. Then so be it. The silence that followed was suffocating. Tunde's hand twitched at his side, his lips curling into a dangerous smile. You've just declared war, Adola, he said softly. And I don't lose wars. Tunde's words hung in the air like a storm cloud. You've just declared war, Adola. And I don't lose wars. Adiola's pulse raced, but she stood tall, her arm protectively around Simi. The girl's small frame trembled beside her, but Adola squeezed her shoulder, silently promising she would never let Tunde harm her. You think you're bold now, eh? Tunde sneered, pacing the length of the living room. Bringing a gutter child into my mansion, parading her as if she belongs here. Do you know who I am? Do you know what people will say when they hear this nonsense? Adiola's voice was steady. People will say I did what was right. They will say I showed compassion when you showed cruelty. The staff gasped again. This was open defiance. Tunde's laugh was cold, humorless. Compassion? Don't fool yourself. You're just desperate to cover your shame. Tell me, Adola, are you keeping her here to remind yourself that your husband doesn't want you anymore? The words cut deep. Adiola's lips trembled, but she refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing her break. Moreo, who had been hiding behind the sofa, suddenly burst out, her small voice shaking. Daddy, stop it. I love Simi. If she goes, I'll never talk to you again. Tunde turned sharply, his expression hardening. He hated losing control of his daughter more than anything. Moreo, you don't understand. This girl is not your friend. She is nothing. A street rat. Simi's face turned crimson with shame. She looked down at her bare feet, wishing the ground would swallow her. Adola knelt beside her daughter and spoke softly, but loud enough for everyone to hear. Don't listen to him, my love. Simi is not nothing. She is someone. She is brave. She is kind. Tunde's nostrils flared as he watched his wife undermine him. His empire was built on dominance, on people fearing him. Now, inside his own house, that power was slipping. Fine, he said at last, his voice dangerously calm. If you want to keep her here, then she is your responsibility. But know this, Adola, everything in this house runs by my rules. And when I am done with you, you will regret the day you defied me. With that, he stormed out, slamming the front door so hard the walls shook. Simi flinched, her eyes wide with fear. Ma, maybe I should go. He doesn't want me here. Adola took her hands firmly. Listen to me, Simi. You are not going anywhere. I don't care what he says. This house belongs to me too. As long as I am here, you are safe. The girl's lips quivered, and for the first time, a small smile broke through. Thank you, Ma. But Adola knew Tunde wasn't finished. His silence was never surrender, it was strategy. And she was right. The very next day, the consequences began. Adola arrived at her boutique in Sarulia to find chaos. Her staff was in disarray, customers walking out angrily. Madam, we can't access the bank account, her manager explained in a panic. The supplier's payment bounced, and the landlord says rent hasn't been paid. Adiola's heart sank. She knew immediately what had happened. Tunde had cut off her access to their joint accounts. By afternoon, her phone buzzed with a message from the school. Moreo had been suspended temporarily. Due to concerns about the environment at home, the principal's letter read. Adola could practically hear Tunde's voice behind the decision. Her hands shook with rage. He was using their daughter as a weapon. That evening, when she confronted him, he sat in his study, swirling a glass of brandy, calm as ever. You see, this is what happens when you cross me, he said, not even looking at her. You cut off the business accounts. You suspended your own daughter from school. What kind of father does that? The kind of father who protects his bloodline from contamination, he replied coldly. Adiola's chest burned. Contamination? She's a child, Tunde. An innocent child. She's not my child, Tunde snapped, his voice sharp as a whip. And she will not stay in my house. The room went silent. Simi, who had been listening from the doorway, froze. Her eyes filled with tears, but she bit her lip, refusing to cry out loud. Adola stepped forward, her voice trembling. And if I don't send her away? Tunde leaned back in his chair, his smile venomous. Then I'll ruin you. Everything you own, everything you've built, every friend you think you have, I will take it away. And when I'm done, you'll be crawling back to me, begging for mercy. Adola stared at him, her fists clenched so tight her nails dug into her palms. She had never hated him more. But beneath the rage, something else began to form a plan. If Tunde wanted war, then war he would get. She would not fight him with fists or shouting. She would fight him where it hurt the most, his reputation, his empire, his pride. And she would start with the secret he thought she didn't know. The secret apartment in Ikoyi. The one he used to hide his mistress. The streets of Ikoyi hummed with wealth. Sleek cars glided past, uniformed security guards stood like statues, and the air smelled faintly of imported perfume and freshly cut lawns. Adiola's driver slowed as they approached a luxurious apartment complex overlooking the lagoon. The building's mirrored glass reflected the late afternoon sun like a jewel. This was where Tunde kept his secrets. Wait here, Adola instructed, her voice sharp. She stepped out, her heels clicking against the polished pavement. Her heart pounded, but her mind was clear. She had heard whispers from friends, late-night sightings of Tunde in Ikoyi, always with the same woman. He thought he was untouchable, too clever to be caught. But men who thought themselves gods always left cracks in their armor. The security guard at the entrance eyed her curiously. "Good afternoon, Ma. Can I help you?" "I'm visiting Chief Adegbite," Adola said firmly, flashing the confidence of a woman who belonged everywhere. The guard hesitated. Then recognition flickered. Everyone knew the chief's wife. He quickly stepped aside, muttering, "Yes, Ma. Welcome." Adola climbed the marble stairs, her chest tight. She paused at the door. Tunde rented apartment 5B. Voices drifted out. A woman's laughter, carefree and sweet. And then, Tunde's deep voice, the same one that had once whispered promises to her in the dead of night. Adeola's hand shook as she pushed the door open. And there it was. Tunde sat casually on a plush sofa, his arm draped around a young woman in a silky robe. She was stunning, light-skinned, hair in long braids, her smile wide as she fed him fruit from a silver bowl. The scene looked almost staged, as if designed to break Adeola's heart. The woman froze when she saw Adola, the bowl clattering to the floor. Tunde turned slowly, his face paling for the first time in years. "Adola," he muttered, his voice faltering. Adola stepped inside, her heels echoing like gunshots. Her eyes blazed with fury, but her voice was ice. "So this is where you've been hiding. While I stayed home raising your child, you were here, playing family with her." The mistress swallowed hard, then stood abruptly. "Chief, I should go." "Sit down," Adola barked, her voice sharper than glass. The woman sank back, trembling. Tunde stood, his arrogance returning in flashes. "What are you doing here, Adola? You have no right." "No right?" Adola cut him off. "I have every right. I am your wife. Or have you forgotten? You disgrace me in our home, and now here too?" The mistress shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting between them. Adola studied her closely, and suddenly, something clicked. She was younger, yes, but there was something else. The same curve of jaw as Tunde. The same sharpness in the nose. Adeola's heart slammed against her ribs. "How old are you?" she demanded. The girl hesitated. 21. Adeola's stomach churned. She turned to Tunde, her voice trembling with horror. "Tunde, who is she?" His silence was the answer. "No," Adola whispered, her knees threatening to give way. "It can't be." Her voice rose, piercing the room. "Is she your daughter?" The mistress gasped, tears spilling. "He never told you." Adeola's world spun. She clutched the back of a chair to steady herself. The betrayal was deeper than she had imagined. Not just adultery. Not just infidelity in marriage. But incestuous deception, bringing his own blood into this twisted affair. "You monster," she spat at him. "You cheated on me with the child you abandoned years ago." Tunde's face hardened. "Don't you dare judge me. You don't know what life demands of men like me." Adola staggered back, bile rising in her throat. She thought she had reached the limits of betrayal, but this was beyond imagination. The mistress, his daughter from another woman, barely grown, now entangled in his sins. She turned, her tears blurring the glittering apartment. "I will destroy you, Tunde. Everything you are, everything you've built, I will tear it down piece by piece. And the world will know what kind of man you truly are." Tunde smirked faintly, though his eyes flickered with fear. "Be careful, Adola. If you open your mouth, you'll go down with me. Lagos society protects its own. Who do you think they'll believe, a billionaire or a bitter wife?" Adeola's fury hardened into resolve. "They'll believe the truth. And I will make sure the whole world sees it." She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Her chest burned with rage and disgust. The night air in Ikoyi felt suffocating, but her mind raced. She couldn't fight Tunde alone. She needed allies. She needed power. Back in the car, Simi's tearful face flashed in her memory. That girl had walked into her life for a reason. Maybe innocence could fight corruption. Maybe compassion could dismantle power. But as the car pulled away, Adeola's phone buzzed with a message. She opened it, and her blood ran cold. It was a photo of Simi. Alone. Crying. In the backseat of a strange car. The message read, "If you want her back, stay quiet." Adiola's hand shook as she stared at the message. Her throat felt dry, her heart hammering so hard she could barely breathe. Simi, innocent Simi, was gone. Taken. And Tunde's shadow loomed over the crime like a thundercloud. Her driver glanced at her through the rearview mirror. "Madam, are you okay?" Adola swallowed hard, forcing her voice steady. "Drive. Fast. Home." The city blurred past. Neon lights of Victoria Island mixed with the honking danfos, the smell of roasted suya rising from street corners. But Adola saw none of it. Her mind was racing. If Tunde could kidnap Simi, what else was he capable of? And why target the girl who had done nothing but show kindness to their daughter? Unless Simi knew something. Something Tunde wanted silenced. By the time they reached the mansion, Adiola's fury had hardened into ice. She stormed inside, her heels clattering against the polished marble. Funk, their daughter, came running, her small arms clutching her mother's waist. "Mummy, where's Simi?" "She didn't come back with me." Adola knelt, stroking her daughter's hair. Her voice broke. "Don't worry, baby. I'll bring her back. I promise." But as she held her child, Adola knew promises alone wouldn't save Simi. She needed allies. People who could match Tunde's power move for move. She grabbed her phone and dialed a number she had avoided for years. "Chinedu," she said when the line connected. On the other end, a deep voice responded cautiously. "Adola? It's been a long time. I need your help," she whispered. Chinedu Okafor was no ordinary man. A former business rival of Tunde, he had been crushed by Tunde's ruthless empire years ago. But he had not forgotten. He never forgot. If anyone had reason to take Tunde down, it was Chinedu. An hour later, Adola met him in a quiet lounge on the mainland. The place was dim, filled with the scent of palm wine and grilled fish. Chinedu sat at the far corner, broad-shouldered and imposing, dressed in a simple kaftan. When she approached, his eyes softened. "Adola, you look tired." "I don't have time for small talk," she snapped. "Tunde has taken someone dear to me. A girl. And he thinks he can silence me. I want to destroy him, Chinedu. Not just in the bedroom, not just in marriage. I want to ruin him in public, in business, in society. Will you help me?" Chinedu leaned back, studying her. His voice was low, deliberate. "You know what you're asking. Tunde has judges in his pocket, police in his hand. Taking him down means war." Adiola's eyes burned with unshed tears. "He kidnapped a child. He lies, cheats, manipulates, and hides behind his billions. If I don't fight him now, I will lose everything. My daughter, my dignity, even my life. I'm not afraid of war anymore." Chinedu smiled faintly. "That's the Adola I remember." He leaned closer, his tone sharp. "But war has rules. You'll need evidence. Proof of his crimes. Financial records, witnesses, something that will turn the people against him. Without that, he'll crush us both." Adola nodded, determination surging. "Then let's start digging." For the next hour, Chinedu laid out a plan. He would use his contacts in the banking sector to trace Tunde's offshore accounts. Adola would gather proof of his infidelity in marriage and his dealings with his own daughter. Together, they would build a case so damning that not even Lagos society could look away. But just as hope began to flicker in Adiola's chest, her phone buzzed again. Another message. This time, it was a video. Simi sat in a dark room, her face streaked with tears. A man's voice growled off camera, "If Madam Adola speaks one more word about Chief Adegbite's private life, this girl will disappear forever." The screen went black. Adiola's breath caught. Her hands shook as she replayed the clip over and over, memorizing every detail of the background, the peeling wallpaper, the faint sound of a generator, the flash of a yellow curtain. Chinedu grabbed her hand. "Listen to me. Don't let him see you rattled. He wants you broken, silent. But we'll find her. I'll put my men on it." Adiola's voice was cold, sharp as steel. "No, Chinedu. This is no longer about just finding Simi. This is about ending Tunde. Once and for all." She stood, her fists clenched. Her mind was already racing ahead: lawyers, journalists, NGOs. If she played this right, she could expose not just Tunde's betrayal as a cheating spouse, but his corruption, his abuse of power, his manipulation. Her revenge story would not just be whispered gossip in Lagos parties. It would be headline news. But as she stepped out into the Lagos night, her phone rang again. This time, it wasn't a message. It was a call. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A familiar voice spoke softly. Adola. It's me. Simi. Please, don't trust anyone. Not even the ones helping you. The line went dead. Adola froze, her blood running cold. If Simi could call, then maybe she wasn't fully under Tunde's control. But what did she mean? Who couldn't she trust? Her eyes darted to Chinedu, who stood just a few steps behind her, watching her closely. His face was unreadable. Was he truly her ally, or was he part of the trap? The mansion in Ikoyi glittered under the night sky, but to Adola, it felt like a prison made of glass and lies. She returned home with her plan forming like smoke in her mind. She could not confront Tunde directly, not yet. To save Simi and protect her daughter, she would have to play the role of the obedient wife while sharpening her knife in the shadows. That night, when Tunde finally returned, he found Adola waiting in the living room. Her red jewel framed her face, her wrapper tied neatly, and a soft smile played on her lips. She looked every bit the dutiful wife. Tunde, she said sweetly as he entered, you're home. I was worried. Tunde raised an eyebrow, clearly suspicious. Worried? Since when do you worry about me? Adola swallowed the bile rising in her throat. You're still my husband. No matter our quarrels, I can't ignore that. He studied her closely, his sharp eyes searching for cracks. Then he smirked. Good. You're learning. He sat, unbuttoning his agbada lazily. This marriage will last as long as you remember your place. Adola nodded meekly, pouring him a glass of palm wine. Her hands didn't tremble, though her heart thundered in her chest. She had to make him believe she was broken, submissive, harmless. As Tunde drank, his phone buzzed. He answered with a grunt, listening for a moment before chuckling. Yes. Keep her quiet. Don't let her out of your sight. Adiola's ears pricked. He was talking about Simi. She forced herself to remain calm, even as her nails dug into her palm. Every word was evidence. If only she could record him. Later that night, after he drifted into a drunken sleep, Adola crept into his study. The room smelled of leather and expensive whiskey. She knew Tunde kept files here: business deals, offshore transfers, contracts signed in shadows. Her fingers skimmed through drawers until she found a folder labeled private accounts. Inside were documents detailing secret bank transfers to Mauritius, the Cayman Islands, and Dubai. Millions hidden away. Proof of corruption, tax evasion, and money laundering. Adola quickly snapped photos with her phone, her pulse racing. She knew Chinedu's contacts in the press would salivate over this. But as she turned to leave, her phone vibrated again. Another message. This one was from an unknown number. We see you. Stop digging, or Simi disappears forever. Her blood froze. She scanned the room, the shadows pressing close. Were there cameras hidden here? Was Tunde watching her even now? The next morning, Adola played her role flawlessly. She served breakfast with a smile, laughed softly at Tunde's jokes, even kissed his cheek before he left for his office in Marina. He seemed satisfied, convinced that he had bent her to his will. But the moment he was gone, Adola moved swiftly. She sent the photos of the bank documents to Chinedu with a simple message: Step 1. Within the hour, Chinedu replied, Good. But be careful. He's watching more than you know. Adiola's mind returned to Simi's warning on the phone. Don't trust anyone. The words gnawed at her. Was Chinedu really on her side, or was he just using her hatred to settle his old scores? Still, she had no choice. She needed him, for now. That evening, while Lagos traffic snarled in endless chaos, Adola disguised herself in a simple wrapper and scarf, blending into the crowd of women selling vegetables at a roadside market. From there, she slipped into a battered taxi that Chinedu had arranged, heading toward an address he'd given her in Sarulea. The safe house. When she arrived, two men with stern faces ushered her inside. And there, sitting in the dimly lit room, was Simi. The girl's eyes filled with tears as she saw Adola. "Mama Adola," she cried, rushing forward. Adola embraced her tightly, relief flooding her chest. "I thought I lost you," she whispered. But the moment was shattered by Chinedu's voice behind her. "We don't have much time. Tunde will realize she's missing soon." Adola turned sharply. "What do you mean? Missing? You said you'd rescue her." Chinedu's eyes darkened. "Rescue is not the word. She walked into our hands. Tunde wasn't the only one watching her." Adeola's heart stilled. She pulled Simi closer. "What are you saying?" Chinedu leaned in, his voice low, heavy. "Adola, the truth is, Tunde isn't your only enemy. Simi knows something even more dangerous than Tunde's secrets. And if you don't handle this carefully, both of you could end up destroyed." Adeola's pulse thundered in her ears. She looked down at Simi, whose face was pale with fear. What could this girl possibly know that made her a target for both men? Before she could ask, the sound of heavy boots echoed outside the safe house. The door rattled violently. Men were coming. Armed. The door shook violently as fists pounded against it. Then came the unmistakable sound of metal sliding, a gun cocking. Adeola's blood ran cold. She pulled Simi behind her, her heart slamming against her ribs. "Chinedu. What's happening?" Chinedu's face hardened, his jaw set. "They've found us." "Who?" Adola hissed. "Is it Tunde?" Before he could answer, the door burst open with a deafening crash. 3 men stormed in, their faces masked, guns gleaming under the dim light. The air smelled of sweat and gunpowder. One of them barked, "Hand over the girl." "Now." Adola stepped in front of Simi, her voice trembling but fierce. "Over my dead body." The gunman raised his weapon, but Chinedu intervened, stepping between them. "Wait. She's worth more alive than dead. Let's negotiate." Adeola's stomach twisted. The way he spoke, like he was part of their game. Had she been right all along? Was Chinedu using her as bait? The leader of the masked men sneered. "Our orders are clear. The girl has seen too much. Chief Adegbite doesn't want her talking." At Tunde's name, Simi whimpered, clutching Adeola's wrapper. Adeola's anger flared. "You tell Tunde he will regret the day he laid hands on this child." The men ignored her, advancing. Chinedu drew a pistol from his kaftan, his voice a roar. "Back off." Gunfire erupted. The room exploded into chaos, bullets splintered wood, glass shattered, and Simi screamed. Adola dragged her toward the back door, adrenaline pumping. "Run!" Chinedu shouted, firing shots to cover them. Adola stumbled into the narrow alley behind the safe house, the smell of burning tires in the distance, the Lagos night buzzing with danger. Simi's small hand clung desperately to hers as they darted between corrugated metal fences. But behind them, footsteps pounded closer. The men were giving chase. They turned a corner, and there, blocking their path, stood another masked man. His gun pointed directly at Simi. Adola froze, her chest heaving. She pushed Simi behind her. "Take me," she begged. "Leave the girl." The man's finger tightened on the trigger. Suddenly, another shot rang out from behind. The gunman dropped, his weapon clattering to the ground. Chinedu appeared, his face grim, smoke rising from his pistol. "Move," he barked. They ran, weaving through the darkened alleys until at last they spilled onto a busy main road. Danfos honked, street vendors shouted, Afrobeats thumped from a nearby shop. Normal Lagos life, oblivious to the storm raging in their shadows. Chinedu dragged them into a waiting keek. "Oja Legba." "Fast," he shouted to the driver. The tricycle lurched forward, swerving into traffic. As the wind whipped her face, Adola held Simi tightly, her mind racing. The girl was shaking, tears streaming down her cheeks. "It's okay," Adola whispered, though her own voice quivered. "I've got you." But when she looked at Chinedu, suspicion burned in her chest. He had saved them, yes, but why had the gunman spoken so freely in front of him? Why did they seem to know him? She turned on him, her eyes blazing. Tell me the truth, Chinedu. Whose side are you on? Chinedu's jaw clenched. I'm on your side, Adola. Always have been. But you need to understand, Tunde isn't the only one after the girl. There are bigger men behind this. Politicians. Businessmen. She knows something they all want buried. Adeola's head spun. She looked down at Simi. What do you know, my dear? What did you see? Simi sniffled, her voice barely a whisper. I saw papers. In Tunde's office. Names of people, big men. Money moving everywhere. I wasn't supposed to see. But I was cleaning when I found them. He caught me reading. Adeola's stomach twisted. Simi had stumbled upon the kind of corruption that could topple not just Tunde, but half of Lagos's elite. Chinedu's voice dropped. Now you see why she's dangerous. Not just to him, but to everyone who's been feeding from that table. The keek rattled to a stop at a quiet compound in Serulir. Chinedu hustled them inside a modest flat, locking the doors tight. For the first time, Adola allowed herself to breathe. But her relief was short-lived. She knew this wasn't over. As she tucked Simi onto a mattress, she whispered, I'll protect you. I swear it. But when she stepped outside to confront Chinedu, she froze. He was on the phone, his voice low, urgent. Yes. I have them both. Safe for now. But what do you want me to do next? Adeola's heart lurched. He wasn't talking to her allies. He was talking to someone else. Someone powerful. She pressed her back against the wall, her breath shallow. Was Chinedu working for Tunde all along? Or for the very politicians Simi had exposed? And if so, what was his plan for them now? Adola pressed herself against the wall, her ears straining. Chinedu's voice carried clearly through the thin plaster. Yes. I have them both. The wife and the girl. Chief doesn't suspect a thing. But if you want this to work, you'll need to move faster. Lagos is watching. Adeola's blood froze. Chief doesn't suspect a thing. He was talking about Tunde. Her stomach churned. The one man she thought was her ally, her weapon against her cheating spouse, had been playing her all along. She slipped quietly back into the room where Simi lay, her breath shallow from exhaustion. Adola crouched beside her, whispering, Listen to me carefully. We can't trust Chinedu. We'll have to run. Simi's eyes widened, but she nodded. That night, while Chinedu snored lightly in the sitting room, Adola and Simi slipped out the back window. The Lagos night air was heavy with humidity, but freedom tasted sweeter than oxygen. They fled into the maze of streets, blending with women carrying baskets of fruit and men hauling sacks of yam. Adola knew exactly where to go. By dawn, she and Simi arrived at the home of Maman Kechi, an old family friend who ran a fabric shop in Balagan Market. Maman Kechi took one look at Adeola's drawn face and pulled her into an embrace. Adola, my daughter. What has this man done to you again? Adeola's voice cracked. Everything, Mama. And worse. Maman Kechi clucked her tongue, guiding them inside. Rest first. But remember, if you want to defeat a lion, you must be ready to fight in the open, not in the shadows. Her words struck deep. Hiding wouldn't save her anymore. To win, she would have to expose Tunde in the brightest light possible. By midday, Adola sat with a reporter from a rising online news outlet, The Lagos Truth. The young journalist's eyes gleamed as Adola slid the photos of Tunde's offshore accounts across the table. This is gold, he whispered. If this goes live, it will shake Lagos. Adeola's hand trembled. And I have more. Evidence of his infidelity in marriage. Of the girl he kept hidden in Ikoyi. Of the child he desecrated. The reporter looked stunned, then leaned forward. Madam Adola, are you sure you want to do this? Once it's out, there's no going back. Lagos society doesn't forgive women who expose their husbands. You could lose everything. Adeola's eyes hardened. I've already lost everything. This is not just about me. It's about the truth. That evening, while Lagos bustled under the glow of streetlights, Adola dressed in a sharp Ankara gown and tied her jewel high. She would not face Tunde as a victim, but as a woman reborn. She walked into the ballroom of the Eco Hotel, where Tunde was hosting a gala for politicians and business magnates. Cameras flashed, high-life music drifted from the band, and laughter filled the hall. All eyes turned when Adola entered. Murmurs rippled across the room. The estranged wife had returned. Tunde's smile faltered when he saw her. He quickly plastered on his usual mask of arrogance, striding over to meet her. "Adola," he said smoothly, "you honor me with your presence. But this is not the place for quarrels." Adeola's voice rang clear, cutting through the chatter. "On the contrary, Tunde. This is the perfect place." The hall fell silent. She lifted her phone, holding it high. "Ladies and gentlemen, do you know the man you celebrate tonight? The man who preaches family values while he cheats on his wife. The man who steals billions from this nation and hides them in foreign accounts." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The journalists, already present for the gala, raised their cameras higher. Tunde's face darkened. "Adola, enough," he hissed, his hand tightening on her wrist. But Adola pulled free, her voice rising. "And do you know what else he has done? He kidnapped a homeless girl, an innocent child, because she saw too much. He thinks his money can bury the truth. But not tonight." Gasps erupted. The words cut through the glittering hall like knives. At that moment, the giant screens meant to showcase Tunde's business achievements flickered. Instead of corporate slides, images of his bank transfers, mistress, and shady contracts appeared, one after another. Adola had sent them to the reporter, who timed the leak perfectly. Chaos broke out. Guests whispered in horror, politicians slipped toward the exits, and cameras flashed wildly. Tunde spun toward her, his face twisted with rage. "You think this will destroy me? You're a fool, Adola. You'll regret this." Adola stood tall, her voice unwavering. "No, Tunde. Tonight, it is you who will regret." Before Tunde could respond, security guards surged into the room, surrounding him. And at the back of the hall, Adola spotted a figure watching with cold amusement, Chinedu. Their eyes locked, and in that instant, she knew, the real game was only beginning. The ballroom was still buzzing with chaos when Adola locked eyes with Chinedu. He stood in the shadows near the exit, a smug smile tugging at his lips. For the first time, Adola realized the truth: he wasn't her savior. He was the puppeteer. Tunde thrashed against the security guards, his expensive agbada crumpled. "Do you fools know who I am?" he roared. His voice cracked with fury, but beneath the arrogance was fear. He could feel his empire crumbling. Adeola's chest heaved as she raised her chin. "Lagos knows who you are, Tunde. And the world will soon follow." Journalists swarmed, microphones shoved into her face. But before Adola could speak further, the lights flickered. Suddenly, the giant screen froze, and Chinedu's face appeared on the monitors. The crowd gasped. "Good evening, Lagos," Chinedu's voice boomed over the speakers. "You've all seen Chief Tunde's sins. But what you don't know is, Adola herself was never innocent." Adeola's stomach dropped. What is he doing? The screen shifted to a video, Adola meeting Chinedu in secret, passing him files. It looked damning, like she was in league with him all along. Gasps rippled through the hall. "This is not true," Adola shouted, panic rising. His twisting everything. But the damage was done. The crowd's murmurs turned suspicious. The politicians who had looked at Tunde with disgust now eyed Adola with doubt. Tunde smirked through his disheveled state. "Ah. So this was your lover's game, Adola? To ruin me so he could rise? You betrayed your own marriage for another man?" Adeola's hands trembled, but she forced herself to stand firm. "No. Chinedu is the real serpent here. He wanted both of us destroyed so he could claim the spoils." The crowd's confusion grew. Chinedu, still smirking from the screen, declared, "Believe who you will. But Lagos thrives on blood, and tonight, blood will spill." Suddenly, gunshots cracked from outside the hall. Screams erupted as guests ducked under tables. Adola pulled Simi into her arms, shielding her. Men in black stormed the ballroom, Chinedu's hired thugs. They fired into the air, sending chandeliers swaying. One of them barked, "Everyone down." Chief Tunde belongs to us tonight. Adeola's pulse raced. If they took Tunde, it meant Chinedu wanted to silence him for good. For the first time, she realized, her husband wasn't just a cheating, corrupt man. He was bait in a bigger game. Adeola crawled behind the stage, clutching Simi. She spotted a microphone, still live. Her breath came fast, but her voice rang out strong across the speakers. Lagos. Do not believe Chinedu's lies. This man wants to use our pain to enslave us all. He kidnaps children, bribes police, and now he brings violence to silence the truth. But we will not bow. The crowd erupted in cheers, their fear morphing into courage. Guests threw chairs at the thugs, creating chaos. Amid the commotion, Adeola saw Tunde break free from the guards, stumbling toward her. His face was pale, desperate. Adeola, help me. Please. Adeola stared at him. The man who had mocked her, betrayed her, stolen her dignity, now begging for mercy. She whispered, "You never once thought of mercy when you betrayed me." But as the thugs advanced, Simi's small voice pierced the air. "Mama Adeola, if we let them kill him, won't we become like them?" Adeola froze. The child she had protected, the girl who had once been homeless and forgotten, was teaching her a lesson in humanity. With a heavy sigh, Adeola grabbed Tunde's arm. "Get up. If you want to live, then stand with us. For once in your life, stand for truth." Together, they scrambled onto the stage. Adeola raised the mic again. "Lagos. Tonight, this ends. Not with blood, but with light." And at that moment, the projector screens flickered once more, not with Chinedu's lies, but with a live feed of police convoys arriving outside. The journalist from the Lagos Truth had broadcasted the whole scene to social media, tagging the authorities. Lagos had been watching in real time. Sirens wailed. Armed police stormed the hall, rounding up Chinedu's thugs. In the chaos, Chinedu himself tried to slip out, but Adeola spotted him. She pointed, her voice ringing. "There. That is the man behind it all." Chinedu's smirk finally faltered as officers wrestled him to the ground. Silence fell over the ballroom. Guests slowly rose from cover, shaken but alive. Tunde slumped beside Adeola, his agbada torn, his pride in ruins. For a long moment, Adeola looked at him. "Do you see now? Wealth cannot bury the truth. Betrayal cannot erase dignity." Tunde's eyes were wet not from guilt, but from shame. He whispered, "You've destroyed me, Adeola." She stood tall, pulling Simi close. "No, Tunde. You destroyed yourself. I only showed the world." The police led Chinedu and his men away. The guests erupted in applause, not just for Adeola, but for the power of truth. Outside, dawn broke over Lagos. Adeola stood at the hotel steps, the rising sun painting the sky gold. Simi tugged at her hand. "Mama Adeola, what happens now?" Adeola smiled faintly, though tears shimmered in her eyes. "Now, we rebuild. Not with lies. Not with betrayal. But with truth and love." Behind her, Tunde watched silently as Adeola walked away into the morning light, hand in hand with the little girl who had once been homeless. For the first time, Adeola felt free.